Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. Today's random review comes from 1966, and it comes from Japan, and it's Cash Calls Hell, directed by Hideo Gosha and starring Tatsuya Nakadai. This is one of those not quite official DVDs, but the picture quality is excellent, and the film is excellent in itself. This, as I said, stars Nakadai, and he is a guy who accidentally killed a man and a little girl on a bike while he was driving after having something to drink and having an argument with his girlfriend. So he spent time in prison, and he is just about to get out, while the guy who shares his cell with him tells him that he's going to get out in a wee bit too, but you could go and visit this woman, send her a message, and she might have something for you to do when you get out of prison. So he goes to this woman, and she says that the guy who is just going to get out of prison and 3 other guys stole some money from a couple of Hong Kong drug dealers a couple of years ago, and once he gets out, if he kills the other 3 guys, then they'll split the money 3 ways with him. So he agrees, so he finds these guys, doesn't tell them what he's going to do, obviously, but as he gets to know these guys, he realises that there's 2 members of the Hong Kong gang out to kill the guys as well. And you can imagine how things go, and that's about as far as I'll go with the plot. Gosha, who also did Sword of the Beast, 3 Outlaw Samurai, The Wonderful Violent Streets, and Samurai Wolf 1 and 2. Along with Violent Streets, this might be the best Gosha that I've seen so far. I have another Gosha Nakadai film to watch. It's 1966, so it's a very visual film, stunning black and white cinematography. The film opens with a negative flip of a scene that we see later in the film, so already you're a bit disorientated about who's who and whose side they're on, which is a common theme during the film. There's lots of wonderful some Dutch angles, some overhead shots, brilliant use of light and shadow. It's a very dynamic film. It borrows some things from the Japanese New Wave as far as camera techniques. Nakadai is in brilliant form as usual. He starts as a kind of not necessarily sympathetic, because he did kill 2 people with his car, but it was an accident. And as we know, most 100% of road accidents happen on the road. But then he becomes a bit more sympathetic due to kind of the leftovers created by one of the characters. But then his motivations kind of change later on in the film, and Nakadai plays that brilliantly with that wonderful face, which can be threatening or downright evil, but can also be sympathetic and almost childlike at times. It's got lots of twists and turns. Even although it's made in 1966, there is a certain kind of post-war malaise. It's got wonderful locations. There's a scene in a kind of water processing plant or cleaning plant. There's a scene in a junkyard. So the kind of post-war feel of the film kind of hangs in the air. There's also a kind of feeling about the outsiders. Obviously it's a Hong Kong drug cartel that they stole money from in the first place. So again, it's the idea of outsiders bringing drugs into Japan. And obviously, as I said, it's 1966, but there is still that feeling of the post-US occupation of Japan after World War II. The characters themselves, the guys who committed the robbery and now Nakadai and the Hong Kong gangs are after, are these kind of broken men who don't fit into society anymore. One of them's an ex-boxer who for one reason or another had his hands damaged, so he can't do what he was kind of born to do, which is be a boxer. You know, at one point the four of them are described as kind of wild dogs, which again kind of harkens back to Kurosawa's Stray Dog, where the kind of antagonist is described as, you know, somebody who can't fit in to society anymore post-war, and in this case post-US occupation. So there's a real kind of, it's not even melancholy to the film, it goes beyond melancholy. There's a nihilism, and there's a bleakness, there's a brutality about the film of these men who are lost. Plus there's the huge thing of greed and the idea that getting the money is going to solve all your problems, which isn't necessarily true, because the greed, as we've learned all the way back to Treasure of Sierra Madre, greed is definitely not good, despite what Gordon Gekko says. And the characters' motivations just become kind of worse and worse and obsessional, just to get their hands on the money. The climax itself is another wonderful location. It's in a electricity kind of substation. So there's lots of really unique locations in the film. Most of the film happens at night, and again it just has this claustrophobic feel, and with the use of locations it's almost like an alien landscape of kind of decay, and again that post-war malaise. It's just an absolutely wonderful film. It's another Gosha classic in my opinion, and Nakadai is just fantastic. Again, his face kind of changes as the film goes, and in between scenes. It's great support from lots of actors that you'll recognise if you've watched plenty of Japanese films in the 50s and 60s. And it's a real sense that these guys, with the exception of the Hong Kong drug dealers who come back for their money that was stolen 2 years ago, it has that ambiguity of kind of these guys aren't really bad guys, even though they committed a robbery. You really get that sense of you do kind of empathise for them, or empathise about them to a certain extent. They aren't just like straight bad guys who are just pure evil that you can't really identify with. These are essentially 4 wild dogs or 4 lost souls. So I've deliberately not kind of went into explicit detail about the plot. There's lots of wonderful moments, wonderful reveals and surprises along the way, but it's just shot absolutely beautifully. Again, that new wave influence is all over it. That playfulness of actually, moving the camera, doing tricks with the camera, and it's got a fitting ending, shall we say, that perhaps might be more fitting in another decade. But an absolutely wonderful film. I would highly recommend it. Cash Calls Hell from 1966. So thanks very much for watching this random review. Please let me know if you've seen Cash Calls Hell and what you think of it, and hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.